Voila. Cinema.
And I took that personally. Did I just study 4 years of film and spend $10,000 on a camera just to be told that a smartphone is actually better? But what's the difference really like? I tried my best to compare the iPhone to a regular pro video camera and to a Red cinema camera. Well, can you tell the difference? Which of these shots was shot with an iPhone and which one was shot with a cinema camera? The three cameras look very different. The iPhone is, well, it's just a smartphone. The three cameras are large compared to other smartphones, but tiny next to a rear camera. New this year is the option to record ProRes and a lock color profile. The look is very pale and colorless because this gives the greatest amount of information that can be captured. The color is brought back in the editing program. As a result, the image is generally speaking higher quality and more flexible than the regular video mode. This is the Panasonic S5 IIX. I filmed all of my videos with its predecessor for years. It has a huge full-frame sensor that is 12 times larger than the iPhone. It can record in 5.8K directly in ProRes onto an USB-C hard drive. For the money, you can't get better video quality anywhere else. And this is my Red Komodo X. Much bigger than the rest, but ironically very small for a cinema camera because it is very modular. It doesn't even have built-in battery. Half of it is just a fan, but its sensor can shoot 6K RAW up to 80 FPS. I would argue that the biggest difference between the iPhone and the cameras is that you can't change the lens. The field of view is between 24 and 28mm in video mode. That's it. Sure, you can use the ultra-wide angle and the telephoto lens, but they have worse sensors. On the other hand, we have thousands of lenses to choose from with a real camera. Some of them are super wide angle, some of them have a lot of bokeh, some of them have a lot of character. There are basically 3 points that make up image quality: resolution, dynamic range, and colors. I shot a few different scenes to compare the three. First, resolution. It's quite difficult to compare these three cameras, and I already did it in German, so I don't want to do it again in English. That's why I'm only dubbing over this part. This is the iPhone shot in 4K in the standard camera mode. It does look okay, but a little bit over sharpened if you crop in. And that's the quality you will get when you switch to ProRes lock. Way better in my opinion, but still some slight over sharpening. And this is the Panasonic S5 IIX. It has much greater resolution and you can clearly tell it looks way more natural but not quite organic. And here the red comes in. With 6K it does have the highest resolution but also the most natural sharpness. It's very pleasing to the eye. Second, dynamic range. Although I have made the effort to ensure that all of the viewing angles and the lenses are identical, the frame is always a little bit different because of the sensor size. This is the red. I did not edit anything. It just looks great from the start. Soft colors, high dynamic range. With the Panasonic S5 IIX, I had to do a little bit more adjustments of the colors, but ProRes material is very flexible. However, I started to notice that it has slightly less dynamic range. There is overexposure and underexposure. You can see this very well in the waveforms. Or if we take a closer look at the glass base. The red has hardly any overexposure in comparison. The whole video also looks somewhat compressed and almost digital. The iPhone looks amazingly good at first, but it was also the most work for me. Apple's LUT was unusable. There is significantly less bokeh in comparison, although the Panasonic and Red were also only shot at aperture 3.2. Third, colors. I grabbed my favorite actress, played around for 3 hours and we came up with this mirror scene and the neon light to test the limits of the color reproduction. The iPhone and S5 IIX can shoot in 10-bit, which is about 1 billion colors. That sounds like a lot, but the Red can capture a whopping 281 trillion colors thanks to 16-bit. And believe it or not, in a scene like this, plus that the Red can record in RAW, makes a visible difference. The gradient from one color to another and the changing saturation within them are very intense with the Red. The S5 IIX appears somewhat flatter, the colors have less depth. And then there is the iPhone. This is what it looks like when you simply press record in the regular video mode. And this is what logs look like. And I tried my best to match it to the Red, but it was impossible. The colors are strange, we lose a lot of detail, there are artifacts. This is what a sensor looks like when you're pushing it beyond the limits. By the way, just for fun, because I'm currently testing it, this is the OnePlus 12 next to the iPhone 15 Pro. We did film a smaller, simpler scene outside. It doesn't have any color grading, and I think it's very difficult for most people to tell what's the red and what's the Panasonic. The red is usually revealed because it's very soft. The iPhone, on the other hand, stands out because first, it has less bokeh, and second, there is digital sharpening. So you probably already guessed it, but no real movie production will ever use an iPhone because they think it's better than a real cinema camera. But actually, for YouTube and social media, this camera is more than fine. And I think that there are many shots out there where I would even have a hard time distinguish whether they were shot with an iPhone or an actual camera. Of course, it all depends on the type of video you want to shoot, but it's very relaxing to film with a smartphone. It's so easy. The display is significantly larger than the other two. The stabilization is almost as good as if you're using a gimbal. The Red does not even have a proper microphone, and the iPhone's is absolutely clear. And of course, it only costs a fraction of the price of a professional camera with lenses, and you can use it as a phone too. We are at the point where you don't really need a big fancy camera to make fun and good-looking videos. But you will hit a wall at some point if you're only shooting with a smartphone. And at that point, you should switch to a real camera with real lenses. Then you can get a gimbal and a slider and all that stuff, and it will enhance your creativity to a new level. And maybe at some day you're at the point where even that quality is not enough, and then it's maybe time to switch to a cinema camera. But for me, that took years. I think in the future, with new sensor technology and artificial intelligence, it will be possible to shoot movies with an iPhone. But we are not at that point yet.